Hi, it's Kristen. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're talking all about the importance of reading aloud to your children. We're going to talk a little bit about finding time to read aloud, where to fit it into your day, as well as some suggestions for what to read aloud. If you're new here, welcome. As I said, my name is Kristen and I'm a homeschooling mother of 4 young children, and on my channel I love to share about our homeschooling journey as well as other motherhood related topics such as healthy meals and healthy living, things like that. So I'm going to start by just talking about the benefits of reading aloud to your children, and then I'm going to go over some suggestions for where you could fit in read aloud time in your day. I'm going to share where we do it and then just offer some more suggestions of where you could fit it in. And then lastly, I'm going to go over some of our favorite read alouds. Everything from, I have a few board books to just some picture books and then even chapter books as well. A really great way to give attention and nurture a child is to build a strong bond by reading books together. I know I have really good memories of my mother reading books to me as well as my grandmother's reading books, and you probably do too. I feel like it's something that a lot of people can look back on fondly in their childhood, and you can remember those stories, and you can also just remember the environment you were in when those books were read to you, so the way that you felt and kind of the atmosphere, and where you cuddled on the couch with your mom or your grandmother. Did you have blankets? Did you have something warm to drink? Something like that. Those things just make such a huge impact on children, and those things will just stick out in their minds, all the way into adulthood. I read somewhere a while back ago that if you teach your child how to focus on something, that you're basically setting them up for success in their life, and that they could potentially learn anything that they set their mind to because they have this skill of being able to focus on something. A lot of children have trouble with that early on. I feel like personally screens and things have a pretty big impact on that. But that's another video for another day. But it said that if you teach them focus, that they can learn just about anything. So from the time that my children were really young, it's something I've been working on, especially with my boys who tend to need a little bit more help in that area, training them to, pay attention and, finish a puzzle all the way and not just leave it halfway done when they get frustrated or want to move on to the next thing, just as a small example. But I would add to that if you teach them how to focus as well as teach them how to read, then they can accomplish anything. We don't know what sorts of jobs are going to be available when our, 5-year-olds are 25 years old. The workplace is changing so rapidly with the development, of computers and robot all, drones, like all sorts of things. We really have no idea what the job availabilities and things like that will be. But we know that, by teaching them reading and giving them a love for reading early on so they can learn anything, as well as focus and good communication skills, things like that, we know we're going to set them up for success as they transition into the workplace. All right, so let's get into the 5 reasons to read aloud. So the first one is bonding time. So as I mentioned before, maybe you have good memories of sitting on the couch with your mother or your grandmother and someone reading aloud to you. It really is just such a special time, and I really love to kind of create an even cozier atmosphere by adding blankets or maybe something warm to drink if it's in the winter time. Well, really any time of year. The kids go for tea. Any time of year, a hot chocolate. Kind of creating that cozy environment and just giving your kids 100% of your attention and focus by sitting and reading. It really is just such a wonderful bonding experience and something that your children will remember forever. Benefit number 2 is that reading aloud strengthens your child's imagination. It encourages your child to imagine and visualize the stories as you read them, and maybe even start thinking about what could happen in the story, or even, what could have happened. Maybe this didn't happen, but ideas of what could have happened, which is a really fun way for them to use their imagination. Often I'll find my kids acting out stories from a read aloud that we have read, or bringing characters in from stories that we've read recently, when they're outside or just during their free time. I'll hear little things and it just reminds me that they really are paying attention, they're really getting something out of it, and it's helping them develop and just strengthen their imagination. And number 3 is that it aids in language development. So Never underestimate the power in reading aloud and what it can teach your children just from them sitting and listening. So grammar skills, pronunciation, even just like forming proper sentences, things like that. If the children are hearing this really great literature and these great books constantly every day, they're naturally just going to start picking up on the way stories go, or the way sentences should be structured, or even just how to pronounce certain words and grammar, things like that. It's really, really valuable, and I think it should be a huge part of your child's education. Whether you're homeschooling like we do, or you're sending your child somewhere, there's still so much value in you spending time to read aloud to them. And number 4 is that it extends their attention span. So this one can take some time, but if you don't give up and you just slowly but surely start increasing your read aloud time a little bit every day, you'll notice that even the most energetic little boy, or maybe your busiest toddler, will learn how to focus and take in the stories. And even if their hands are busy doing something, they're still going to be able to sit for longer periods of time and engage their mind in listening to the story. And keep in mind that children don't have to just sit on the couch and look at the book while you're reading with you. There's definitely a time for that, and I do love it when my kids are all huddled around me and we're reading together and they're all like focused on the book. But sometimes we're reading longer books, or maybe chapter books that don't have the super interesting pictures in them, and so sometimes it's best if their hands are busy doing other things. So for my daughter, that might mean doing her little pot holder loom, or for my boys, maybe it's building Legos or playing with Play-Doh or doing a puzzle. Things like that are great for them to keep their hands busy, and they're still able to listen to the story, and you can periodically ask questions to make sure that they are hearing what you're saying and they are getting the story. But almost always I notice that they are definitely able to listen and take in the story while they're using their hands. And I'm going to be making a video soon about some ideas of things that your children can be doing while you read aloud, so be on the lookout for that. And number 5, last but not least, it creates a lifetime love and interest in reading. The happy memories that reading aloud creates will stand out in their minds and hopefully give them a lifelong love of reading. So now that we've covered why you should be reading aloud to your children and some of the benefits of reading aloud, I also should point out that that just scratches the surface. There's really so much more. There's so much more about the science of it and what it does to the children's brains when they're read aloud to as really young children. And I do want to encourage you also, if you don't have young children, maybe you have a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, it's never too late to start reading aloud to them, and they can still benefit from it. But definitely the earlier that you can start, the better. I highly suggest checking out Sarah McKenzie of Read Aloud Revival. She has an amazing podcast as well as a blog, and she talks a lot about reading aloud and the importance of it. And so I encourage you to go and check her out and listen to her podcast if you need some additional encouragement. So you may be wondering, how am I going to fit in reading aloud to my children? Or maybe you do it just a little bit, or maybe just right before bed, and you want to add in more throughout your days, but you feel like your schedule's already so packed, and where are you going to fit it in? So I'm going to give you some ideas of times when you might be able to squeeze in a little bit of reading aloud throughout your days. So the first suggestion is during breakfast. So while the children are sitting and busy eating their breakfast, you can just sit right there with them and start in on a read aloud. So this is a great time to do one maybe that doesn't have a ton of pictures, but that maybe is a chapter book, something that you're working through, so you can just work through maybe just a few pages every day, or a set amount of time, like 10 minutes or 15 minutes while they're eating their breakfast, and that can be your breakfast read aloud time. The next one is morning basket. So you've probably heard of this. I've made a couple videos about it. I'll link them up in the cards and then in the description below as well. But if you haven't heard of morning basket, it's a term I believe coined by Cindy Rollins, who's a homeschooling mother of a lot of children. She kind of started this idea of having a basket full of books that you read just a short amount of every day. And so some people will do that during breakfast, some people will do it right after breakfast. It can be done any time of the day really, but just the idea is that you have a basket full of books, and some of them are chapter books, and maybe some of them are picture books about certain things you're reading about, if you're learning about bees or, you know, things like that. Just kind of fill the basket with all these books that you would like to read to your children, and then you just chip away at them every day for however long you would like to. So like I said, morning basket could take place at the table while they're eating breakfast, maybe right after breakfast once you've cleaned the table up. Oftentimes we will clean the table and then get some tea going. The kids love that, and then we'll do our morning basket then. Recently we've been transitioning to a little more casual morning basket time where we'll kind of finish up with breakfast, get things a little bit cleaned up, and then we'll head over to the couch and everyone will sit down. Maybe the kids will color or do something while I read and go through our morning basket read-alouds. So another great time to read aloud is during lunch. I've heard from a lot of mothers who will eat their lunch just a little bit before the kids, maybe while they're kind of making the children's lunch. And so that way that frees them up to be able to sit and read aloud to the children while they're eating. Once again, it's a great time. Their hands are busy, they're happy and being fed, and you can sit and, like I said, just kind of chip away at some of the books that you are wanting to read. A really popular time and one that we enjoy doing is directly after lunch. So once everyone is done with lunch and everything's kind of cleaned up and put away, it's kind of that time. In my household, I still have younger kids, so in between lunch and rest time, they usually go down for rest time around like 1:30 or 2, depending on what we have going on that day. My youngest daughter will go down for her nap around that time, and then my older children will do rest time. And so kind of in that in-between time when we're done with lunch, but it's not quite time for rest, we will sit on the couch and pull out some of the books, and it's a great time to read. It also kind of calms the kids down after they've been playing, and gets them nice and calm before quiet time. And keep in mind that you don't have to sit and read for like a solid hour or hour and a half. You can start with just little increments, especially if your children aren't really used to it and if they're a little busier or more energetic. Just start with small amounts at a time and then just gradually build it up. And as you find books that your children are really loving, you'll notice that they'll start asking for more, or can you read another page, or what's going to happen next? Can we do another chapter? Depending on what you're reading. So it's really fun to kind of see the love of reading and the stories develop in them as you go. Another idea is before bed. So this is kind of a classic one. It seems like everyone kind of does this, reading aloud before bed. It really is such a special time of the day to get in some extra reading aloud. Oftentimes we'll have separate books for this time that we keep up in their rooms, and so we will go through those books at night, and then we have different ones that we're reading aloud during the day. It just kind of calms everyone down. It's a great way to just spend some quality time with your children right before bed. And the last suggestion is in the car. Audiobooks are fantastic to use while you're driving from piano lessons and sports practice or karate, whatever it may be. Oftentimes you can rent them from your library, sometimes in CD form that you could just use in your car, or a lot of libraries now have an app that you can download and borrow directly from the app, and you just download it right onto your phone. I know that we've been going through the Little House books on audio books, so we're able to listen to them while we're in the car. Or even sometimes at night, if there's something going on and I'm not able to read or whatever, we'll turn on an audiobook while they're, coloring or painting or things like that, and they just really love to listen that way. I do think there's a lot of value in the mother or parent or grandparent, whoever it may be, reading aloud to the children, and I don't think that audiobooks should completely take the place of that. But it's definitely a really great resource to have for times when you couldn't be reading aloud to them, but it's a great way to just fit in more books and great literature. All right, so those are some ideas for how to fit it into your day. So now let's jump into some of our very favorite read-alouds. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Tell me what your favorite time of the day to read aloud is. Do you fit it in multiple times, or do you just have one large chunk of time where you sit down and read to your kids? I think it would be helpful to other mothers if you would tell us down in the comments when you like to read aloud to your children, as well as maybe some of your favorite books to read aloud to them. So some of these books we have gotten brand new from Amazon, and some of them I've gotten from thrift books, or I've picked up at library book sales or all kinds of different places. But I'll link everything that I can down below, so if you're looking for a particular book, definitely check the description box because I'll have them all listed down there for you. So I'm just going to go through these in no particular order. There's a mix of some chapter books as well as mostly picture books. So we're just going to dive right in here. So the first one is called The Bumblebee. This one's by April Pulley Sayre. I don't think I'm going to go through and read all the authors' names because I'm pretty sure I won't get them right. There's some pretty different names here. So I think I'm just going to read the title for you, and then I'll have them all listed down below for you. So The Bumblebee Queen is a great little picture book. The next one I have here is called Sonia's Chickens. This is a super cute little story about a little girl and her chickens. This one is very popular, Charlotte's Web. This particular edition is a special read-along edition, and so it has really large text as well as some pictures every once in a while, and so this is a really great edition of the Charlotte's Web for younger children. As I mentioned, we are doing the audiobook of Little House in the Big Woods, and this is our kind of hard copy that we keep here. We've read through this one. This is a really great edition because it has full color inside, so there's lots of fun pictures for the kids to look at, and they really enjoyed that one. The next one is called The Stick. My kids really love this book. This is a really popular one, Make Way for Ducklings by Robert McCloskey. It's just like a classic, one that everyone should have, I feel like. The next one, this is a series. I don't know how many are in this series, but it is the If You Give a Pig a Pancake. They also have If You Give a Moose a Muffin and several other things. These are really, really cute little stories with really fun illustrations. My kids love every single one of them. I also have If You Give a Moose a Muffin here. Here is The Hat. This one's by Jan Brett. Any Story. I have a bunch of her books. Any of her stories are fantastic. We love that author. Here's another one of those. If You Give a Mouse a Brownie. Another favorite. This is a really old book by Thornton Burgess, and this one's called Bedtime Stories. I got this at a library sale for so cheap, and my kids have absolutely loved it. It's pretty large, and it has the funnest little stories, just like most of Thornton Burgess's stuff. It has, you know, stories about little animal characters, and that has been a favorite that we've read multiple times over. The next one is Degas and the Little Dancer. My kids absolutely love this book, and it made them start sculpting things out of clay, which is super fun. So definitely a favorite. Another favorite is Mother West Wind. That series, this one's Mother West Wind's Neighbors. We have a bunch of these. These were actually my husband's when he was a kid, one of his favorite books. So we definitely really have enjoyed these. Another favorite is Frog and Toad, Our Friends, Arnold Lobel, a classic children's story. My kids ask for that one over and over again. We also listen to it on audiobook as well. My kids love this one, Put Me in the Zoo. It's a fun, kind of goofy little storybook. Henny Penny is another classic that my kids love. This is a fun one with colored pictures in it, and they love that one. We Are the Gardeners by Joanna Gaines. So this is definitely, obviously, a really new book, but it's really wonderful. The story is really, really great. The illustrations are beautiful, and I was just pleasantly surprised by the really beautiful story that it told. So definitely a favorite that my kids ask for over and over again. And here's a couple of board books that we really love. This one's called Dear Zoo. Even my older kids like this one. My oldest is 6 years old, and then I have 5-year-olds, but my little 18-month-old loves it, but my 6-year-old and my 5-year-old do as well. Another little board book that we love is called The Real Mother Goose board book. So this is just full of Mother Goose nursery rhymes. It has really pretty little illustrations in it, and one of those books that you just read over and over and over again, and then the kids get familiar with them, and then they start kind of trying to say it. It's really just fun. So definitely love anything with the Mother Goose rhymes in it. I have a bunch of books with the rhymes in there. More recently, we have gotten these Usborne Peep Inside books. So this is a set. Peep Inside the Farm. This is the one that I happened to grab, but they have really neat little lift the flap inside. My 18-month-old loves it, and the story is just real simple but fun, and even my big kids will listen in on these. The next one is an older series. So this one's called My Book House, and there are 7 or 8 books in this series, and so this is just a fun, this one's called In the Nursery, so these are more like nursery rhymes and little tales and things, and it has fun illustrations in it as well as just short little stories, nothing too long. And as the series goes on and you get to book number 4 or 5, the stories get longer and longer and kind of more detailed, and so we have this whole series and my kids really love this one. And the last one I'm going to mention is another really old book. So this one's called For the Children's Hour. I believe I got mine from eBay. I'm not sure that this is still in print. But this one just has a bunch of really unique stories in it. Yeah, this one says, it has a little writing on the inside of it. It says Christmas 1951 for Dwight from Graham and Gramp. That's kind of fun. So it just has a bunch of really unique stories in it that you're not really going to find elsewhere. And the illustrations are not colored, but the stories are really neat. They have like home stories, the house stories, the farmer, nature stories, holiday stories, all kinds of things, fairy tales and fables. There's just a lot of really great classic literature in one book. I really love picking out a story in here and reading from it. All right, so that's everything. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I really hope it was helpful to you, and I hope it inspires you to collect a basket of books for your kids and keep them out somewhere where you can see them all the time. That will just remind you to, whenever you can, just fit in little bits of read aloud time, and just keep in mind all the benefits and everything that it's doing. If you ever get discouraged or it seems like your kids are not sitting still for long enough, or you feel like you don't have the time, just remember all that your kids are getting from it, and I feel like that will encourage you to just push through. Again, thank you so much for watching this video today. I hope it was helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and stick around for more videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
Life is a winding road.